and with the next keynote that's up on the agenda. It's the Operators Roundtable, and we're hearing about insights and perspectives of leading MNOs on Open RAN and lab testing. And for this, I would love to have the panelists and moderator on stage that you might have seen before. Thank you.
Yes, it's me again. But this time I switched the head of facilitator and I will be moderating this roundtable. And thank you, Nico, for the introduction. So I am humbled and honored to have here, all the representatives of the operators that are the leading force of the Open RAN. And why not starting with a short round of introduction? Ayşenur.
Okay, so I start as the... So I'm Ayşenur Şenyer. I am the Director of Transport Networks in Telefonica, based in Munich. For the last 2.5 years, I'm doing this job. So I think I'm the only transport guy in this panel. Why I'm here? Because my dear colleague invited me in. He's actually doing the real trials here in Germany. But I want to bring here a different perspective. So this is why I'm here in this panel. About me, half of my life was with the vendors and the rest half with the carriers or operators. So I think I have enough experience to reflect back my previous experiences here into this panel.
Thank you. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Sapamukai-san, over to you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Shinsuke Samukai from NTT Docomo. So I'm leading 5G Open RAN RAN equipment development team. So I appreciate to be here, and I would like to introduce our experience and the challenge of Open RAN.
Thank you. And thanks for flying over from Japan to be here with us.
Yeah.
We talk a lot this morning about NTT Docomo and how we can join forces together, European operators and also Japanese operators. So I think it's a very good fit into this panel.
Thank you very much.
Franz.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Franz Seiser from Deutsche Telekom. And as you shared with me yesterday, kindly that you will wear magenta.
Yes.
I thought I don't need to wear magenta today. We still have magenta on stage, so everything is fine. To myself, I'm part of Deutsche Telekom Group Technology Organization. You can see this as kind of CTO office, and my role, in short, I'm leading Deutsche Telekom ORAN activities since we started in 2020, roughly.
Thank you. Last but not the least, Frank.
Yes. Hello, everybody. My name is Frank Hillebrand. I'm working for Vodafone in Germany. I'm located in Düsseldorf. I'm a radio access network expert in an area of network evolution and solutions. But I have a background. I lived here for 8.5 years in Berlin during my time as I worked for Siemens. It was before the Vodafone. I tried to change to Vodafone.
All right, thank you. So when we prepared this roundtable, we promised ourselves that we will not revisit the basics of the importance of the Open RAN. So I think we have much more to share now, and we are more mature, and we would like also to hear your insights about your journey. So Frank, maybe we can start with you, right, and give us a bit of the perspectives. Where is Vodafone in this journey, and what are the challenges and the opportunities that you see?
Yes, of course. Vodafone is very committed to Open RAN. So let's see that it starts the journey about 4 years ago. It was in July, so about 4 years ago, the first 4G site was built up with Open RAN in Vodafone UK. That was a first step, let me say, or first big step, when different activities follow. So I can't explain every one, but in January last year, we set up also the 5G site commercially in Vodafone UK, and now we have this so-called golden cluster in the UK with 16 sites covering 2 cities in the southwest of UK. having inhabitants of about 30K and 60K. And so we're covering not only rural area, we're also covering urban and suburban environment. And also we have massive MIMO antennas there. So we have Samsung hardware, Samsung software. The CUs and Us are from Dell. And Wind River is the company for the cloud platform. And we are now in a phase, as I said before, it's commercially in use. And the performance looks, I would say, good. So we are at the moment in an optimization phase. So many of the KPIs looks very good. But some of them have to be improved to really say that it is now, at least as good as incumbent KPIs or values, also performance values we are seen in the last with the incumbent vendors. And for Germany, we also plan to have a commercial pilot with Samsung this year. And so that's the step towards our goal to have 30% of our European sites equipped with Open RAN until 2030. And we also have labs, for example, the UK lab for end-to-end testing and validation, which also takes part in these plug fests in spring this year. So at all, it's summary we can say that Open RAN leaves the pilot stage towards real live network stage. So I think it will take a long time, but we can say, okay, now it has achieved a maturity to compare it with the incumbent RAN vendors in a live network.
Thank you. Thank you, Frank. Franz, do you want to go next on this
sure.
one?
So let's revisit my last 3 years, so to say.
Exactly.
No, actually, as Alex Choi kindly shared today in the morning, the roots of ORAN go even further back to 2018 with the setup of ORAN Alliance, and even before. So there is a long history where our guys have been part of. Not myself, because I didn't mention myself. I'm not really a radio guy. They brought me in more with cloud and software background and core to see how to bridge the gap between these two worlds. But so real activities on our side started around 2020, and we realized basically from day one, the one thing will be to drive technology, and I will talk about it in a minute, but the other thing is we have to work from the very beginning about ecosystem, because we wanted to bring new players, we wanted to enable an ecosystem. So basically we did two things. One of them you see here. So we jointly set up the i14y together with Vodafone, Telefonica, and a couple of other partners. Most of them you have seen already on stage or visited in one or the other place. So this was the one thing. And looking at it today, I think that worked out very well. The second thing we also did is we set up the ORAN MOU on European level. So to address a little bit the idea of Stefan Terral in the morning, we don't do it on countryside, we do it European-wide. Again, these two fellow operators together with Orange and Telecom Italia, where we put a very strong sign into the industry. There is a joint interest, there is a market building. We have aligned in the meantime in the third iteration requirements to be very clear what we need, what has to be developed to give as much guidance to the industry as we can. And we will discuss during the panel how we need to go on. But this was happening as well. On the technology side, I think at least in Germany, relatively well known. We started the endeavor of ORAN Town, 50 kilometers north of Berlin, where we in early stage did a setup covering a typical German city of 50,000 people, with the intention to understand what is state of the art, what are the issues, what is working well, what needs more focus, what are the things we need to take care about to really understand where we are, but also to understand at what speed we see the things getting closer to what is state of the art in the most advanced SRAN systems. So it was not only seeing the technology, but also seeing the speed of catch-up. Bottom line, we have been satisfied and we learned a lot. And the consequence out of that whole activity was that in Barcelona this year, our board member announced we are now going into small-scale commercial deployments in this country as well as in a European country. If everything goes well, and that's looking like that, we will still start this year with that, switching it on for commercial operation.
Very good. Thank you, Franz. Safa-Mukasan, so everyone is looking at you and at NTT Docomo as being one of the pioneers and front runners in this domain. can you please share with us your journey, where you are in the Open RAN?
Okay, sure. So our openness journey is actually started in 4G. So we already achieved multi-vendor operation in between 4G BB and 4G RU. With common interface. So therefore, 5G Open RAN is a natural progression for us. So, for example, so we started Open 5G RAN from commercial day one. So in 2020. So that means a fully multi-vendor interoperability operation. So after day one, so we also selected new RU vendor. So when we add new flexi band, so it is actually thanks to open interface. So, however, to deploy Open RAN, there are some challenges to introduce in commercial networks, such as high performance and interoperability test and most cost effectiveness. So in order to solve the challenge of reduced cost, so integrated test cost, so we started open shared testbed in Japan. So this testbed, one of the big feature of this testbed is that not only using by myself, but other operator can access remotely, and they can reduce the time and the test cost significantly. So yeah, that's so 5G Open RAN network development globally now. So we can support this test and this test because we have so many experience and capability of interoperability test.
Thank you. Ajanur, from your glasses, from your perspective.
When he started in Japan, we lost like, I don't know, more than 10 people to Japan. Yeah, so I think Japan was really leading, and it made us question what difference we need to bring to this market, right? So I think it was a good pace setter. It is not only the technology behind, but I think the automation that it brought into the network was important. So from the Open RAN perspective, if we come back to Telefonica I think was the first one to do Open RAN in live network in Germany. We learned a lot. So we learned a lot about the hardware capabilities, capacity issues, software development, feature issues, etc., and also the ecosystem. So in the end, it was a great learning for us. I think we had great expectations from the vendors, so we need to put this balance as the operators towards the vendors, and we need to make sure that the idea leaves, no? So that we support the ecosystem, including vendors in this area, and I think we will discuss about how in the next round. What I want to bring here is that, I mean, it is not just the Open RAN that I think we need to talk about. It's the open systems, disaggregation. Like, I'm also proud to say that in the transport area, we managed to start with the white boxing disaggregation on the transport. As of today, we have live implementations on the access routers and a bit of disaggregation on the optical as well. So for us, the openness, I mean, today we talk about technology, and as an operator, of course, about hardware, software, and basic functionality today. But why we are here, I think it's a bigger purpose. So when we look back in the virtualization world, virtualization also came when we talk about virtualization, we were thinking that okay, it will come later sometime, no, in the core domain. But it started faster, so it moved the vendors, the traditional vendors had to move faster to virtualization in the core. So I think now what we see is happening in virtualization in the core is started happening in the radio domain. So I think we will see more of the classical vendors as well moving towards that domain. And if we look at the future of the operator, if we want to become a platform provider, if we want to communicate between the operators in an open environment, that will also open opportunities for innovation, which will come not directly from the operators, but from the ecosystem. And I think this is also why this lab is important in that sense. And I think the applications that will come is beyond our imagination today. I think this is why it's not just the cost or the lean side or energy that we're after, but it is about this openness and what will come to the communication industry as disruption in the future. So I think this openness will really bring disruption, a real disruption that we don't see today.
Great insights, Ajnur. Thank you. And perhaps we continue with you, and maybe we double click. We talked this morning, and we heard a lot about the need to continue the collaboration, to continue to bring the ecosystem together, right? And on that, what is your take? Are we doing enough on the ecosystem play? Are we doing enough on this collaboration and openness? How can we do more?
Yeah, how can we do more? I think this is a good step. We are here. We are talking all together. We are presenting. We are doing the testing all together. And we are learning from each other. So this is important because having this testing is just one step. So I think it is just the first step. So what we can do together, I think I was inspired by the panelists of the lab, that how far they've gone into Taiwan and in the US. So I think we need to come to those levels in Europe as well, cooperating between each other and making sure that we provide the basics. So we test the basics together, so we don't spend efforts. We also enable that for our partners, for the ecosystem, so that we accelerate the innovator parts to come into the place, right? So I think learning from each other provides a lot. And I was in the Future Net in May in the UK, and all the operators were talking about becoming a platform provider. So if we will be a platform provider, this is only we can do all together. So that I think is a very good start with this environment here to start, communication and to create this ecosystem together.
Good, thank you. Safamukai-san, in your perspective, how far is this importance, of collaboration and ecosystem as playing, in OREX activities, for example, or in NTT Docomo journey?
Okay, so we have been working for long times to achieve openness, so with our partner. So in 4G era, we defined a common front-forward interface by ourselves, and so our partner vendor supported our interface, but this is specific interface. So, but they assume multi-vendor support and multi-vendor support regardless of specific interface. So and in 5G era, we had achieved open multi-vendor interoperability spec. So that define the ORAN specification. So that is open X interface between 4G and 5G, and front haul between CUDU and RU. So they are defined ORAN profile. So at first, back to 2019, it takes a long time to testing complete. But we study and cooperate with our partner vendors. So now, recently, we reduced the test time significantly. So now we can select new other vendor in short time, and so it's because it is ORAN profile is more stable. So yeah, also our ecosystem is not just to integrating partner product, but actually bring fusion partner maximization strengths. So other partners have different experience and different areas. So we believe that we can accelerate 5G Open RAN network deployment globally with our ecosystem.
Thank you. And I was also checking the page of Orex, and I believe that you have many partners and many ecosystem players already collaborating in that lab and previously from this journey of 2019. So you have been doing a lot in this ecosystem play. Thank you. Franz, what's your take on this ecosystem importance?
It's a complete no-brainer from my perspective, and I think we achieved a lot already. The one thing I said is we're meeting here. The other one, where I have to say I was personally very positively surprised, was this MOU, because when I heard first about the idea, I was not sure if and how fast we would be able to come together and how much we would share. But if I look how this is going and how well it works and what we discuss, of course, always being very careful about antitrust and stuff, but we know how to do that. But on that level, we really have an incredibly good collaboration in the group. But it's only the big, and all you see here, all the big players. So we still have a certain muscle to drive. But in order to make ORAN successful, it needs to be consumable for everyone, not only for the big ones. And we all have a certain understanding and a pretty good understanding what it means and what needs to be done. Smaller operators don't have that as of today, and we need to find ways how to make ORAN consumable also for these guys, because only then we will get scale, and only with scale this whole technology will be a success on a global base. So we still need to improve, for example, as well the collaboration with Japan. There's also a lot going on. We don't have too much representation here in North America, so there's still room, because it is one ORAN. It's not the North American version and the European version and the Japanese or Asian version. We need to bring that together. We need to really make sure it's all, because only then scale can build. And these are the things we need to build upon and drive forward. And some first steps happen, more to come. And of course, to make it consumable, we had it already today, this whole idea of certifying components. 80% are the same for all of us anyhow, regardless how much we compete. The base technology is always the same. Then there's always a small piece, if it's not 20%, 30 or 10, we can discuss, doesn't matter, where we have our special requirements, where we believe this makes us better in front of the customer. But the basic is the same. So why should we, all of us, invest a lot of effort in doing the same basic stuff all the time? That can be done together. And it's also for the benefit of the vendor, because the vendor doesn't need to do the same tests 50, 60, 100 times across the globe, because every operator believes you need to do that. That stuff we can do jointly, and we need to find ways how to do that jointly to lower the effort, because in the end that will help also on the TCO side. And again, that helps to make this whole technology successful in the end. And that's what we need to drive from my perspective.
Yeah, and I like your comment. I mean, it needs really to be easy and consumable to the others, right? And I think that we hear in many discussions that the major vendors or operators, whatever, it's still very hard for the small companies to collaborate with us.
To share, I said I'm coming more from the core side of the network, so I'm used to very many interfaces, but they are very well described and relatively straightforward. Open frontal is the opposite. It's only one interface, but it took me some time to accept that this is really a very different kind of interface to the ones have been used before. And it's definitely not straightforward to integrate open frontal. And that's the more we can do jointly, the more we can synergize and do things only once and not multiple times. The faster we get, the more efficient we get, and the more faster this technology can scale.
Indeed, Frank.
Okay, what to add? So I think openness and collaboration is a basis for the further development of Open RAN. And I think it's also important that new vendors could come on the train, not having a huge amount of hardware which can be sold, so that they have new ideas, for example, for the rig, for X apps, Air apps, ideas to maybe, as an example, to reduce energy consumption. And that brings a lot, because that's a huge amount of cost savings for us as operators, because we have to pay a big amount of money for that energy costs. And so, openness is very, very important, so that everybody can bring his own ideas, thinking and new ideas, so but we can learn from each other, and not everybody is doing his own history, let me say, or his own strategy.
Thank you, Frank. Okay, so we are very good on time, and now I would like really to spend some time to discuss with you, and because the motto of this summit is test and validate, so I would like really, to ask you, what is also your opinion about these joint testing activities? And maybe we start with you, Agenor. So I think it's clear that we have to do more. We heard this a lot, and I know that some operators have their own labs, or they also rely on joint labs, like the i14y lab is a very nice experience where we see all the big operators also making the best effort out of it. But maybe on that domain.
Yes, I mean, Kati, I don't see her here now, but she was very excited, right, when I talked with her. So she is really willing with the team here to build this common testing. And we're already, we see Gerald and Olaf presenting together. So we are in here all together. And as we described, there's always some common testing. We are not here to test everything, because we are, operating big networks and with a lot of focus on other things as well. So it will be really great to have this focus here, to have some common testing, to contribute on how we can simplify it. Because obviously we need to simplify it. It doesn't have to complicate our lives on top, right? So this is something. And I think this is something we can also do collectively. How can we simplify this all together, right? So for that one, I think we all agree that we could have common testing. We do some testing here commonly. Then if we have additional things, we can differentiate between, 3 operators, which ones we need on top in a different way, etc. So we are on it, and we're discussing not just to have it just for maybe run, but some other things, because, the open API, the APIs was something that we are discussing for years in the operator world. So what happens if we can look at the world like that, no? And if we can open this to the others so that they can also create together, and we put more ideas, and then we change the world. So I think this is why we are so discussing it here today, because we are building the future networks, and the future, maybe we have some ideas, but we don't really predict it very well, right? So, and why don't we join efforts to build the future all together, right? So that will be my words.
Very good, thank you. So I heard also that in your initial answer you were mentioning that many of the players in the ecosystem have already access to your lab, right? So on that note, so what can we do more on these joint testing activities?
So I would like to comment about the joint testing. So So our open shared lab is not only focusing or network, but also support test and test case the others. So we would like to share anything about those. So we already have so many experience of tests and not only integration but also managing vendor cross testing. So we can provide new test experience and new test service to the others. So the partnership has just started, but we started discussions. So maybe I think we can join testing and accelerate 5G development.
Very good, thank you. And maybe we will next time be in this room and discuss the progress of these joint activities and how well you are playing between you and the labs that you are also supporting. So maybe a call to action that we follow up on this one and have also these 3 other participants also joining your activities in Japan.
Yeah.
Friends?
Not so much to add, I think. I mean, at least I didn't hear anyone here, either today or yesterday, doubting that this is a useful way to go. As said, it's the testing itself, but it's a lot about mindset to really be willing to work. And as said, what I have seen in this Open Run, this happens somehow with a very different mindset to what we have seen often before. So there's much more willingness to work together. And the other thing I think we still have a way to go and we need to invest is test automation. Because the one thing is test, but the other thing is how do you make it with as little effort as possible. And I think also here is a big room for collaboration and learn from each other what's the best and most meaningful way to automate this testing as simple as possible, but still be sure it's really covering the cases. And that's also some territory we still need to explore further. But as I said, with the mindset I see, I'm pretty confident that we will see significant progress if we meet again here in roughly 1 year's time.
Okay, so to make it happen, mindset and automation, right? This would be your summary. Very good. Frank?
Yeah. From an operator perspective, I think it's always good to have many vendors where we can choose of. So, and if you want to have many vendors in the Open RAN area, independent of software, hardware, optimization, whatever, I think you need a huge amount of big lab ecosystem, like the i14y lab as an open lab for vendors, not only achieving batches. That's important for us because when we see the requirements are fulfilled and we have to do our specific tests, but also to do proof of concepts. Check if new ideas work as expected and so on. And therefore, it is very important to have this lab here and all the other labs in the world to have such kind of ecosystem where the vendors can go there, get their batches, prove their concepts and so on, and then can distribute information. Do not have to do it in a Telefonica lab or Deutsche Telekom lab or Vodafone lab again.
Great, thank you. All right.
I want to add something.
Yes, please do.
I mean,
because we still have 2 minutes.
The energy in this lab, I think everyone would love to come here. And you offered a lab as a service here, right?
Yes.
So I've been to Telefonica labs. It's huge, big labs. But here, I see the energy. I see the the ambition, and also the atmosphere to collaborate. Not only in here, but also around the world. This was amazing. It's like everyone offers some kind of connection. That's really amazing. It's really promising for the industry, I think. Yeah, we are for the first time have the opportunity to develop something all together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I meant with mindset. Just one thing came to my mind. One thing we also need to be careful. Make sure, I agree, we need many labs, but we need to coordinate. We don't want to get labs to compete. And then vendors scratching, do I go here or there? We need to find some ways to make sure they are not competing, but they are adding on each other, and it's very clear, and specializing in certain areas to really orchestrate, so to say, what is happening in which labs and how things fit together, to avoid that we again confuse the supplier industry, but they don't know where to go because there is no clear idea from what we communicate there.
Indeed, Franz, and indeed, it's all about joining forces, not creating more competition, because otherwise we will be stuck, and in 1 year we will be still talking about the challenges and the hurdles, not about the success, right? Okay, so any final words? We have 30 seconds. We are really good on time. I'm very proud. Very nice roundtable discussion. Any final words to the audience? Good, then. Thank you so much.